Hi, welcome to BCI Ask the Experts. I'm Brad White. Happy to have two great experts with me today, Dr. Dustin Pendle
Good morning, Brad.
and Dr. Bob Larson.
Hello, guys.
We've got these guys because we're going to answer a listener question here in just a second. And as always, if you have a question you'd like to send in to us, you can send it to bci@ksu.edu. And this question was relevant to hiring a manager. And what they wanted to know was, we need to find a manager for our operation. That's been a little bit challenging. What are some tools and techniques that you guys would recommend? Before you start answering, Dustin, I want to remind everybody you guys get up to 10 points for your answers. So, Dustin, you're up first.
That's a great question. I think, I could see both sides of the argument, either hire or raise your own, if you will. I've always been a proponent of hiring external. And the reason is you bring somebody in that's maybe got some fresh ideas, that's not entrenched in the tradition. They might not carry all the baggage that could come with that, like internally. And so for me, I really like to hire external just because it's bringing fresh ideas in, and it's going to try to hopefully elevate you from where you currently are to that next level.
Okay, so bring in some of those fresh ideas and try to reinvigorate the organization maybe, and also avoid some of the bad. So 6 points for Dustin out of the gate. Bob?
Well, I agree that I have seen cattle producers be very successful either bringing in outside people or growing their own. And I've also seen some that weren't as successful with that. But one of the real values of growing your own is developing over time some of that institutional knowledge. And, we've tried this before, what worked for us, what didn't. And I'm going to say, some of those outside ideas, I'm going to put that a lot on the owner, the manager, to be interacting with people to come up with the new ideas. And I want my employees to institute the tried and true things over and over. So I'm going to say both are important, new ideas as well as really getting your procedures down well. So I'm going to say grow your own, really help develop that, adding skills, adding experience over a fairly long time period.
So I like that because you get a little faster startup when you get going because they already know what they're doing. They already know the ins and outs of the operation. And you addressed Dustin's point saying we can still get those fresh ideas somewhere else. So 7 points for Bob. Dustin, so I'm going to come back to you and I'm going to ask, okay, if I'm looking externally, how do I find those people? How do I cast a net to get the right people into my operation?
That's a good question. And I think there's a lot of people right now that are casting those nets. So it's probably even more challenging at the moment. But obviously social media, trying to maybe even hire somebody like a headhunter. I know that, that is also a common in production ag as well. And so there's multiple sources. I think you need, whether it's newspaper, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Twitter, I've seen it all. Or I think maybe depending on the kind of position you need and the kind of skills you're looking for, is seeking out maybe a professional company that will go out and kind of outsource that. So those are, I guess, a few options.
Yeah. So but have a plan. You're going to have to be probably, as you mentioned, and what I'm hearing is be aggressive.
You've got to
Don't
be
be
proactive.
passive.
You can't sit back in this kind of environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So Bob, I'm going to ask you a different question because you said kind of grow your own in the operation. What are some of the tools and tips that you would use in growing your own manager? How do you approach that, or do you just say, "Hey, do your job, and we'll figure out if you're a manager later"?
Well, that's honestly what I'm tempted to do a lot of times because I'm busy with a lot of other things. But developing your work staff, and again, in a lot of cow-calf operations, that's not particularly a large number, but they still need guidance, they need encouragement, they need clear expectations. And so one of the things is, as the business owner is carving off a fairly large amount of time focused on getting the most out of my employees. And by that, that's training, feedback, expectations, and really spending a lot of time on that. It's one of those things that I think, whether it's finding a new employee, I think you almost have to be looking all the time, because I'm looking for characteristics, persistence, hard work, some of the things that are harder to train. I want to be looking for that all the time. And then when I see someone within my operation that has some of those skills but maybe lacks some experience and knowledge, invest in them so that they grow some experience and knowledge, because they have some of those intangible traits that are harder to find.
Excellent. So Bob, you're going to develop them there, but you still it takes a fair bit of work. But I like what you said, always looking. So Bob ends up with 9 points, Dustin with 8. Thanks for joining us today. If you have questions for us, you can send them in to bci@ksu.edu.